if there's an SDR or an SDR manager, or even an AE sitting thinking like, okay, well, so I just can't book meetings anymore. Like what should they be expecting from maybe from an output perspective? And then, what if they're listening going, okay, well, I still have to book meetings, my quota, if half of my pipeline, if my close rates just got cut in half, now I need double the pipeline, which is, I'm sure, a
Yeah.
line every AE SDR is tired of hearing from their manager. But in fairness, they're probably hearing it from their boss, and they're hearing it from their boss, and they're hearing that from the board. So it
Yeah.
sucks. It's just kind of the way it is. So what advice would you give them in terms of what can we do differently now so that we can try and hit?
It's really interesting, this one, because I think that there's a lot of people talk about intelligent outreach. And I was just saying about we need to be a bit more creative and intelligent about how we bring value to the person. And what I see translated there is that often results in a lowering of activity levels. And I think the message, because people think, oh, well, I've got to research more and I've got to do, X, Y, Z, and I've got to tailor this message specifically. Now, there is value to that. If your target addressable market's tiny, then yeah, of course you've got to do that, because you can't squander or waste any opportunity or any conversation you have or engagement you have. But I think if your target addressable market is big enough, the key thing is about how, for me, you make it as personal and meaningful as possible based upon not just, if you're talking retail, don't do a retail message. Do a sub-retail level message and personalize that as much as you can. Find a third-party article, find a message that's going to apply to not just furniture, but a furniture-only retailer. So not, someone who sells, we still have the concept of department stores. You guys have got Macy's or whatever in Canada and North America. So I think where those, you're not going to send to a general retailer the same message as you could send to every single furniture only retailer. So tailor that, but then repeat it. So you can try and do enough personalization that somebody feels they're getting value from the messages or the content or the approach that you're making, but then keep the volume levels up high enough that you're covering enough ground, because ultimately, that is going to be the name of the game. You've still got to cover enough ground, and you can easily fall into a mistake of doing so much personalization, so much research, that actually you only outreach to 20 people in a day, and you're not going to see those results coming through in a market where your conversion rates are so much lower.
I remember once spending 3 hours putting together a PDF for a customer. It was the perfect PDF. This is a long time ago, before I knew they don't send PDFs, especially not as a cold email. It's like 3 hours of my day researching and doing this and doing that. 0% reply rate. I remember being so mad. And now in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, why would somebody reply to that? Like, you're throwing so much at them when you don't even know if it's relevant.
Yeah. And that is the thing, is I think that relevance piece is really important, because I think this is where we're encouraging our teams to that's where this intelligence comes from, is drawing that relevance out. I personally think, we don't spend enough. Definitely the clients that come to us, they don't understand the USP well enough. So the unique selling point, they say what it is, but do they really understand it? Is it really that differentiated from the other 10 companies that are out there? I'm sure you and I talked about greenfield sites, and we'll get on to that. But, is it really that different? Then once you've got that and you really understand that, how many people are chasing the right ideal customer profile, and within that, the right persona? And how much analysis are they doing on that persona? And I was telling somebody a story. So my sister worked for British Airways years and years ago, and she was a procurement person at British Airways. So what I didn't realize was that procurement people have exactly the same training as salespeople. It's just exactly the opposite side of the coin. So
the challenger procurement process.
Exactly. So I'm out there sort of trying to gain revenue, and she's getting a bonus on everything she saves on every proposal that crosses her desk. Now you can imagine what lunches with my parents were like when the two of us were attending. It was kind of good fun. But the point being is that by understanding her, she's my ideal persona, understanding how she's personally targeted, what is likely to drive her at that level, as well as at a business level and internally within her business, are really key ways that I can drive a relevant message without needing to do tons of research. I've just done a bit of work on my typical persona, and understanding that procurement get bonused on savings and don't really care about you or the product. As soon as you start to understand those things, you can then start to put things into that engagement that are more relevant to them and what they may be interested in or they may be targeted on. I think that's really important.
Mm-hmm.